Hello, welcome to my presentation about project management. In this presentation, I will cover the reasons for starting a project, um, and then I'll really show what are the core elements in there, and I'm gonna following that I will talk about a little bit about project management and product or service development. So there are two processes in here. To start with, what is actually a project? The project is really you create a temporary organization, and this is just a team of people to produce a product or a services. So they are really focused on producing that, and there are the project management team which really manages the process of producing that product or services. So the project is normally defined by the goals and objectives. This is what we want to achieve. These are the deliverables which are really expected at the end of the project. And then it really states that this is the amount of time required to complete that, the production of that product or services, the amount of budget required, the resources, what that product really entails, what is really the scope of it, what really the level of quality performance of that product. That is the key element in terms of creating that project. So there are these goals and objectives which really set out in terms of this project. There are constraints as well. These constraints are the things which I just mentioned in here in terms of the time and the budget and resources. So the main reasons are there are about 8 reasons in terms of 7 reasons in terms of producing the reasons for starting a project. The first one is to solve a specific problem. These problems really arises in organization. It might really be regarding about processes or the product itself. Those problems really arises in an organization, requires a project to really solve those problems. However, this is not a sort of a one-off exercise in organization. You solve a problem, you create the new processes or products. Those processes most probably will really create unintended consequences. What it means is in the future there might really be other problems created as a result of the change of these processes. In doing so, what you really need is that you are continuously reviewing your processes in terms of just to make it at an optimum performance level to increases and reduces the problem in the processes to achieve your goals and your aims. The other reasons which are really a key element of it is the organization should really look forward in terms of what is upcoming in terms of technology or a new market. So it should exploit a new opportunity. What kinds of product or services will give us this new opportunity, this new market, this new customer bases? Those are really the looking forward and producing the products and the services required to exploit this new opportunity. So the organizational management looking continuously in terms of finding opportunities and how to exploit them. So these are really big reasons in terms of starting a project. There is an opportunity arises from the new technology. That technology most probably the tech organization, leading tech organization creates a new technology in the will be able to really exploit that new technology to get an even better opportunity for the organization. The other reasons to start a project is that your organization might not really have the efficiency you really require. So that what it means is if you've got less efficiency, the productivity is not really at optimum. What it means is your cost is really high, your competitiveness is low, so you might really require to evaluate the level of your efficiency in your organization. So if you really think that there are areas to improve that efficiency by introducing new products or services, you bring us in new projects to satisfy that efficiency. The other, in terms of the effectiveness of the product or services, is it the optimum you can actually offer? Is it the goals, the objectives which you have created to achieve in terms of that product and services? Is that really effective enough? If not, you might really create a project to really improve the effectiveness of your product or your services. The other one is really in terms of your organization performances. The methods which you are really using to produce your products or services might not really be a sort of giving you the optimum efficiency or effectiveness of it. In that case, what you're really looking at is the efficacy of the method, that the method is the best method to give at the product or the service we are producing. In that case, you are really trying to improve the method you're using in organization, and then for that to really improve, you need to create a project that really tackles the efficacy of the methods you are really using to do the project. So these are really an important element of it. The other one is, which is really coming from outside your organization, is the regulatory requirement. These are laws which are really coming by organization or by other bodies which your organization need to satisfy. It has to comply with these regulation or laws. For that reason, you need to really have a project in terms of satisfying that project. Say, in terms of regulatory bodies, most probably you might really have got the security of your products and services, most probably really required to have a certain level of protection, and that most probably requires to create a new project to satisfy that regulatory requirement. The other key element is, in terms of starting a project, this is the big drivers in many organizations, is the satisfaction of the strategic goals of it. These are the aims of organization to really achieve in next 5-10 years, to achieve that strategic goals in terms of what you really need to do in terms of achieving that. That, for example, your strategic goals, most probably you might really be that increase your incomes by 10%, 20%. In that case, what product or services you're really thinking that is really going to give you that strategic goals? For that, you might really create a new project or new services that really enables you to create product or services attain that level of strategic goals. The other one is coming outside your organization. That is a sort of these drivers which is really coming the environment. The environment is continuously changing because of the competition in the market. So that competition in the market really requires you to be efficient and effective in terms of your product and services. When it really changes, if you are not competitive enough, your customers might really abandon you completely. So you might really have a huge problem. In this continuously changing environment, the only way that organization can survive is by creating the product and the service that is really demanded by the environment. So this is a sort of a continuous innovation that organization need to do, create product and services through a project, and that project really brings new things, new services to the market. So you really need to be competitive in this changing environment to survive. This is not a sort of a simple exercise. This is a key element in terms of the survival of the organization itself. If it loses its competitiveness, definitely will lose customers, and the income goes down, and then that is a sort of the demise for that organization if it is not reinventing itself with new product and services. That might really be in terms of new technologies, which is coming outside, which is coming from the environment, new technologies, how fast you can actually apply that in your organization to exploit it and really be competitive or brings a new product and services. So that are really coming from the environment. So the other is a changing habits of customers. Their expectation really changes. So they might really requires better product and better services. To what extent your organization is providing that? If not, you need to really produce a new product and new services through your project. So these are the key elements in terms of starting the project. So before you really start the project, there's one element that you really need to evaluate. The evaluation of how much is going to cost that product to produce, what kinds of benefit the organization is going to get. This comparison really gives you whether to go ahead or not in terms of the project. If the cost of producing the product or the service is higher than the benefits, you're not going to really start that unless you have a justifiable reasons, which are the benefits. Most probably there are tangible and intangible benefits. If the intangible benefits are significantly important when you really compare it to the costs. So in terms of the benefit, there might really be those two elements that you really need to have a look at the benefits of any product or service, tangible and the intangible. The tangible one, most probably you can monetize it in terms of how much money you're going to get. The intangible one as the difficult one that you really need to justify if the intangible are justifiable causes, reasons that really, even though the cost is higher than that, then those might really be the reasons that you need to really look at it properly to decide, yes, we really need this, we have to start the project. When you're really starting a project, one of the things which you really need to do is, what are the goals and the objectives of that project? What it means is, remember, the goals and the objective of the product and the service you're really providing. What are the scope? What is really included in that product or services? What are the deliverables? At the end of that project, we're going to have a deliverable. These are the things. These are the technology. These are the new product. These are the new services which we provide. And it's really going to serve as these stakeholders. In terms of the stakeholders, most probably you might really consider the customers, as they might really consider the people who are really producing that product and services in your organization, and you might really consider the other stakeholders. These are the sort of the project management teams, managers the production of this new product or services. So the role of the project management team is mainly to create a project plan. This project plan really needs to outline the resources required, the budget, how much money is really required to complete that product or services, how long it's going to take from start to finish in terms of the timeline, and other key elements of the project. In terms of the project, there are people who produces that product or services. These are the project teams, part of the project teams. Remember, there are two teams in here. The one team, which is managing the project management team. The other is the teams which produces the product or the services. So the role of the project management is normally the coordination and effectiveness of the controlling of the resources and the coordination of these teams to produce the product and the services with the level of budget we have, with time, scope, and the quality of the product, and the performance of the product. Those are the key elements to solve it. So the project team normally go and get the necessary resources. These necessary resources in terms of funding, material, human resources, equipment, and facilities, and then manages and executes the project. The project management teams oversees the day-to-day progress of the project, ensuring that this is on track and within budget and to the quality requirement. And then remember, they really do as well other elements, identifying risks, and that identifying risks in terms of the production of that product or services, and if the risk actually happen, that is the sort of the probability of that risk happening must will be calculated, and appropriate mitigating measures are set in terms of the planning elements of the project management. So those are the key functions, roles of the project management team. Furthermore, the key elements of the project management teamwork is monitoring and controlling the project progress. This is a sort of, if you consider in terms of Prince2 project management, projects are managed in stages, and on each stages, what we are trying to, what this method is really stating is that you have to monitor it, and the monitor it really tells you from your baseline, from your initial plan, which we really set out, and when you are executing that plan, how much we are really deviating in terms of the monitoring. Do we really require additional resources in terms of the human resources or budgets or in terms of time? So these are sort of the regular reviews, and that reviews really tell you whether the project is on time, on budget, or it is not. In that case, we evaluate what is really happening. Okay, and this is the key element as well. At each monitoring and controlling of the progress of the project, we evaluate the key component of a project, the cost and the benefit. At each stages, sometimes you might not really control the costs, because the costs most probably might really go high in terms of, because you don't have really the control of the environment, and that really affects us in terms of the cost benefit analysis. So this cost benefit analysis need to be monitored and controlled at each stages and reported back to the board of the project, how the project is progressing. Once the project is completed, you have to close the project, and this completion of the project is really the implementation of the product or the services. And in here, you make sure that the product is tested, the service is tested, and then it is appropriate to be implemented. And then you have the training set out for all staff members who are really working on the product or the services. And then what happens is now this product and services most probably become business as usual. What it means is the old product, is all the old services will cease to operate, and this new product, new services will be the norm for the organization. So this is what it means is now the state of the organization has changed because of the project. This new product and new services gives a new income, a new way of working in terms of the processes and the projects. Remember, we mentioned there are two processes. What are the two processes? The one is the project management. The other one is the production of the product and the services. These are the two groups, if you call them teams, that really work hand in hand. So in terms of the product and service development, is often the main goal of objectives of the project. That is for example, the company, as it's given in here, might really start a project to develop a new software application. The government agency might start a project to improve the delivery of public services. So in terms of this, what happens is now the project management methods, you might really use Prince2, Agile, whatever you really want to really use, can be used to guide the development of the new product and services. This gives a sort of the framework. Each project management methodologies will enable you to really do planning, executing, and controlling the development process of the product or the service you are aiming to achieve. Product development often involves complex multidisciplinary teams. So you might really require different tech guys at delivering different elements of the product. In this case, the main role of the project management team is the coordination of the work of these teams to ensure that everyone is working toward the same goal. That is the role of the project management. So the project manager used to track the progress of the product and service development, identifies issues, risks, challenges, and make necessary adjustments, mitigating measures. Those are in the planning processes as well. So it is the overall effect of project management is critical for the successful development of new product or services. Okay, so it ensures product stays on track with the budget and aligned with the organizational goals. So the key here is there are a number of reasons why you really start a project. You might really start project because you want to solve a problem. You might really start the project because there is opportunity out there. You might really start your project because there is a legal requirement. There might be reasons that you really start a project because you really reduces the waste in your organization. So you really, in terms of the product and services, you might really consider the effectiveness of it, okay, the efficiency or the efficacy of the method you are really using. And in terms of the organization strategy, most probably is the driving force. However, all these elements, what really tells you is the environment. The environment which is outside the organization is continuously changing. And your organization, to really survive in this changing world, it requires a project. Those projects really gives you the alignment of your organization. What it means is your organization will be able to provide what the environment really requires in terms of the product and services. Without that, the organization might not really survive. So this is a sort of organization need to be creative, inventive, in terms of identifying what the changes of the environment and create a project that really satisfies the new environment requirements in terms of product and services. Thank you very much for your attention.